Are you looking for affordable office space in Marion? The professional building located at 685 Delaware Avenue is the place for you. For more information, call 740-383-6803. Office space is now available. Again, telephone number 740-383-6803. Trella Romine's long-awaited autobiography, My Not-So-Ordinary Life, is now available. Trella Himmerly Romine is a Marion native who lives near Caledonia, Ohio at Paradise, her home along the Whetstone River, for the past 65 years. She is a 1933 graduate of Harding High School and former owner of Himmerly's Flowers. She also has played an integral role at the Marion County Historical Society. Copies of My Not-So-Ordinary Life are available in hardbound and softbound editions at Heritage Hall, located at 169 East Church Street, and at Himmerly's Flowers, located at 615 East Center Street, both in Marion. You can also order books online at www.paradisebooks.com. My Not-So-Ordinary Life, the autobiography of Trella Romine. It's can't miss. This is Scott Spears, and welcome to Scott Spears Now. Tonight, the topic, hypnosis. Our guest, hypnotist, Jeff Richards. Jeff, how are you?
I'm good, Scott. Thanks for having me on.
Jeff, hypnosis, what an interesting topic. I told you on the phone when we first talked, I've done shows with psychics. Word lost there for psychics. I've done them with psychics, voodoo doctors, ministers, preachers, all kinds of people, but never a hypnotist. What's your definition of hypnotist?
A hypnotist is somebody who helps a person's conscious mind and subconscious mind believe the same message. A lot of times we have things that we want to do. And, well, just as an example, I help a lot of people quit smoking. And as a former smoker myself, I'm really familiar with this phenomenon. You think, oh, I'm going to quit smoking. And then that little voice inside your head says, quit smoking. Hey, where's my cigarettes? That sounds like a good idea. Smoking, quit smoking. Gee, I don't know, that's really hard. You get all cranky, and it's a lot of work. And, you know, somebody once said that smoking is addictive as heroin. People die taking heroin. I don't want to die. And, well, I mean, you know, it's not like my health is impendingly bad. It's not like I have to quit today. I could quit tomorrow or next week. I still have a few cigarettes here. I'll go next week. That sounds good. Yeah, next week. And what a hypnotist does is that he helps that excuse-making part of the mind relax a little bit, so you can get your message straight down into the subconscious mind, actually make those changes happen, so that you can do the thing you want to do, whether it's quit smoking, whether it's become slimmer, whether it's be a little bit more assertive and make more sales or ask for that raise.
Tell me about the typical thought of hypnosis, which I think most people have, of swinging the watch and the person being under a trance.
Okay. Well, there's a couple of different things you've got going on there. Let's start with the vocabulary. There are people, lots of people, and some of them are hypnotists, and some of them are hypnotists who should know better, who use words like being out or under. And these are words that kind of suggest anesthesia. And you can use hypnosis for that. And in that context, I guess that would be appropriate. But for most of the time, when a person's hypnotized, they're aware of what's going on. They understand what's happening. The thing about the watch, that does have some basis in fact, but it's kind of old facts. You can hypnotize somebody by fixating their attention on an object. And that object certainly can be a swinging watch, or it can be a candle flame, or it can be just a random point on the wall. And I do start that way.
Okay, let's talk about this, because something you said there was important. They know what they're doing. I think hypnosis for most people is they know what they're doing, but they don't know why they're doing it.
That's sometimes true. Certainly in a stage show, there is a certain feeling of release of obligation. You're turning your responsibilities over to the stage hypnotist in a situation like that. And most of the people who are really good in a stage show tend to be people who are kind of exhibitionists anyway. They're people who are pretty much okay with doing that stuff on stage. They're more or less one or two beers away from doing that already. And for those folks, yeah, that could be true. Somebody who's in my office, they mostly know why they're doing stuff. There are a couple of exceptions, but for the most part, when we're actually working, when we're doing something with a specific goal in mind, it's because they're there and they say, hey Jeff, I want to do this. But there are a couple of things. There's some things that I do just to help people understand that they can be hypnotized, and everybody can be, where they may not quite understand exactly why they responded the way they did, merely because I suggested that they would respond in a certain way.
So you could tell us right now that you were going to tell somebody something, they wouldn't realize they were going to respond that way, but you would make them respond that way, but this sounds convoluted, but they wouldn't understand why they responded that way?
Well, let me give you a specific example, Scott. I do something at the beginning of all my sessions called a suggestibility exercise. And there's a couple of reasons I do this. First one is to prove to whoever it is who's come to see me that they can be hypnotized. Most of my clients have never been to a hypnotist before. And it certainly doesn't hurt, and in most cases it does help to have that little extra thing that says, oh wow, this is really real. There's no risk, there's not a whole lot of value in that particular situation that I use, so there's no reason for them to be anxious in any way, and they can just let themselves respond. I suggest to them that there's something heavy in one of the hands they're holding out in front of them, and that there's something light underneath that other hand, and their eyes are closed, and I just go back and forth describing what's happening with one hand, describing what's happening with the other, and 99 times out of 100, there is that 1% where it doesn't happen. 99 times out of 100, I'll be talking about how the thing is really heavy in their left hand. And you might get a little movement over here. I mean, just about everybody has held heavy stuff, so they've got a direct experience to draw on. Here, you're pretty much making stuff up. Maybe you stuck your hand out of the car window as a kid and you let the air blow it back. But for most people, we've never had a bunch of helium balloons tied to your wrist or whatever the metaphor is that I use there.
So why is that proving to somebody that they're hypnotizable?
Because at some point, once their hands have moved enough, I say, and now without moving your hands, go ahead and open your eyes and take a look. Again, 99 times out of 100, people will realize their hands have moved. They will not have realized they moved that much, and they will not have moved because they chose to move them.
Why do they move them?
They moved because they were simply responding to, at this point, more or less just a story that I've told.
So if they don't move, they're not hypnotizable.
If they don't move, they're not going to be hypnotized by me at that place in that time.
Okay.
Everybody who is capable of understanding a basic sentence in English, assuming that's the language we're all talking, can be hypnotized.
Okay. Now that being said, now if I gave you somebody right now, could you hypnotize them? And make it, for us, for the purposes of television, visual enough to realize that they were hypnotized. They would walk away saying, yes, I was hypnotized.
Entirely possible. Again, depends on the person. There is one thing that can keep a person from being hypnotized at a specific time and place by a specific person, and that is, for lack of a better term, fear.
Fear.
If a person is uncomfortable, a little anxious, a little awkward. I also have trouble with stoned people.
Okay. Well, nobody's stoned in this room right now, so we're okay there. Now, we have one other person in the room. It's our cameraman. Now, my cameraman, Sean, now, do you have a fear? No. No fear. Okay, people can hear you. So there's no fear. I tell you what we're going to do. Pull a little wide on Jeff over here. We're going to bring Sean over. We're going to see what happens here. You're not stoned, are you?
No.
Not stoned.
No.
And not fearful.
You have an honest face. I'm going to take your word on that.
You're going to have an honest face. Okay, flip over there. Looks good? You're good. We're on that shot. Okay. This is our cameraman, Sean, and hypnotist, Jeff Richards. Jeff, explain to us what you're doing and take it from there.
Good to see you. I just want you to look right here. I want you to look at me, and I want you to just imagine for a moment that we're someplace where you feel very calm, very relaxed. I mean, you've probably been in this room more than a few times, and you're pretty comfortable being here right now, aren't you?
Right.
Okay, cool. And so you know what it feels like when you feel comfortable, when you feel relaxed. But I bet you there are times when you feel stressed, when you feel strained, when there's stuff going on, maybe people getting on your back, wanting you to do something, or maybe just you wanting to keep yourself up to the standards you set for yourself, something like that. Does that sound familiar?
Oh, yeah.
And that begins to make you feel, what, a little tense, a little anxious? Here's what I want you to do, Sean. I want you to take your right hand, I want you to put it right on top of my left hand, right like this. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to look right here in the center of my forehead, and I want you to think about all those times when there's stress and strain and bother and pressure. And I just want you to imagine all that collecting right in the center of your gut, just like a great, big, energetic ball of and then I want you to just collect that all from the tips of your toes, off the top of your head, all the way down to the center of your gut, and then I want you to let it rise up, rise up, rise up, right up, rise up, right over to your right arm, right down into your shoulder, right down into your hand, and then I want you to just press down hard. I want you to take all that pressure, all that strain, and just let that turn into a pressure right on top of my hand. I'm a big guy, I can take it. And I just want you to let go of all that and just release that right down into the hand, right down into that arm, because you're a big guy, and I know that there's a lot of pressure going on right there, a lot of stress, a lot of strain, that's right. And you can just let that all go. I know you got more crap going on in your life than that, Sean. That's right. You're doing fine. Doing perfect. And sleep all the way down, more and more comfortable, more and more relaxed, easy, more and more comfortable, more and more relaxed. That's right, you can do, that's right. The funnier it is, the more you can relax, the more comfortable you are. Deeper and deeper down, more and more comfortable, more and more relaxed. You're not into this at all, but that's okay.
I'm sorry, I broke down there.
And that's why these things don't work so much. Every single time I've done one of these demos, it's because somebody else in the room has seen what I did and went,
I'm sorry.
and you can't feel safe when somebody's doing that.
No, I agree with you. Okay. But now, if somebody came back to you and wanted to be put under, and somebody wasn't doing that, what would happen?
What would happen more likely is that they would take that stress and strain. That's okay, Sean. You did good.
You did fine.
That's okay. And, you know, I mean, it's perfectly capable to just, because, this is really not the best situation. Because if it were, I'd be like having you count backwards from 100, 99, 98. You just listen to my voice, 97, 96, and maybe your breathing would just start to slow down a little bit, 95, 94, and the next thing you know, your eyelids are getting heavier and heavier, 93, 92. Next thing you know, you're just breathing heavier and heavier, more and more comfortable. Your eyelids are getting kind of heavy, and that's okay. And if you wanted to just close them, you could do that, because it's okay, because you know how it feels when you're perfectly comfortable,
Right.
and perfectly relaxed, and perfectly safe. You know how that feels.
Right.
And if we were in a room where there wasn't somebody else sitting over there poised to ask the next question.
I am relaxed. I am no longer poised. My poise is gone.
You strike me as a very poised individual.
Well, I'll take that. But now, what could be done? I mean, because I think that people at home would be very interested to know how somebody can be put under.
Sure. In my situation, in my office, I have a 3-tiered approach. We do the suggestibility exercise that I described. That's why I didn't do it, because you already know exactly how that works and exactly what's expected of you, so that's why we didn't do that. I'll then take somebody for a little walkthrough of what they can possibly expect to experience when they're hypnotized. Because there are a couple of little things that can happen when you're hypnotized. They're, at worst, little distractions. And I walk people through the hypnosis experience in context. If they happen to become hypnotized during that time, yeah, that's on purpose. And then I'll bring them out. I'll ask them if they have any questions. They never do. And then we'll start for real. And by that time, they've already been hypnotized twice. So it doesn't just work well, it works fantastically.
Yeah, here's why this is funny, I think. Here's why this is funny. I think because we all think that in the back of our mind this can't be done. I think when we call a psychic, when we call a voodoo doctor, when we call any of these people, a logical person in the back of our mind thinks that really is not going to happen.
Well, setting aside voodoo for a second, because I know some seriously hardcore voodoo people. They're not folks that I hang around with necessarily, but just in the course of my life I have met these folks. And I've met some people who very seriously believe that they are psychic, and they do believe in psychics. But there's never, to the best of my knowledge, been any official recognition from the scientific community of psychics. There has not, to the best of my knowledge, been any sort of official recognition out by the scientific community of voodoo. Hypnosis has been approved by the American Medical Association since the 50s. It's been approved by the American Psychological Association since the 60s. It's been in use for, in various different names, over 2,000 years.
But isn't that just mind over matter?
Which point?
Well, I think anybody could be able to do it. You know, anybody could walk in. I mean, like a doctor could give a placebo to somebody who is maybe an addict.
Oh yeah. Hypnosis is not just a thing that a hypnotist does. Hypnosis is something that occurs whenever that excuse-making part of the mind becomes relaxed. It happens all the time. If you've ever been sitting watching a movie, and you know it's a movie, you know that there are special effects people and actors and stuntmen, and that, you know, Bruce Willis isn't really swinging from a fire hose on an exploding building. Nonetheless, the big climactic scene happens and you go, whoa! You've been hypnotized.
Okay, here's where I want to go with this. Say if somebody came to you for weight or smoking. Those seem to be the big ones. Okay.
Sure.
Now, obviously it wouldn't be like what we just saw there with Sean, where you're trying to put him under.
Sure.
Now, how do we know that that works if, as we went into that didn't work?
Sure.
So how?
When I'm working with somebody in a clinical setting, I do take a little bit more time. I take as much time as the person needs. It's a 2-hour session to start off with. Once someone's been hypnotized, it's pretty easy to hypnotize them again because they have an expectation of being hypnotized. So I don't have to go through as long a process after the first session. And for smoking, it is just one session. But if we were, again, in a clinical setting, I would take you through the walkthrough. I do a technique called the Elman induction, which is pretty standard among modern hypnotists. There's still some people out there doing what's called progressive relaxation, and that works as long as you've got the time. It takes a pretty long time to make that work. The Elman induction, depending on the situation, depending on the person you're working with, might just take a couple of minutes. But it's frankly fairly dull to watch. It's just somebody sitting there with their eyes closed, occasionally opening and closing their eyes. That's why the movies and TV have to be a little bit outside of what actually happens when they do something about hypnosis, because hypnosis is, in my own personal opinion, really cool. I mean, you can have somebody sit down in your chair who is deathly afraid of, pick your topic, clowns, trains, bumblebees, escalators, what have you. And in a very short period of time, they are perfectly okay with whatever the heck that is.
Now, short period of time. What's a short period of time?
I have seen people create that change in as little as 15, 20 minutes. But these were people who had already been set up to that person as an authority. Most of the time when someone walks into my office, they don't know a whole lot about me. These were people who were dealing with somebody who was quite well known in the hypnosis community and quite well known to them. They were there to see this person.
So there is no way in this life to put somebody out who doesn't want to be put out.
Brick.
Well, but in hypnosis.
In hypnosis, there are people who will disagree with me. I'll tell you that I can't do it. I can get people to make slight shifts in their behavior or in their choices, just sitting there talking to them. But in terms of getting them to make a major change in their life, like quitting smoking, eating less, becoming not afraid of clowns, no.
When you are making somebody not afraid of clowns, quit smoking, temper their eating, whatever it is, I guess I don't understand. When you're sitting there and doing that, what is it you do, would you say, that is different than their friend talking to them about it? They're somebody they don't know walking in a room and talking to them about it, who's not a hypnotist.
The thing that I do is that I create that relaxation of the excuse-making part of the mind. In technical terms, that's called the critical factor, and the process is called bypass of the critical factor. There's even a U.S. government definition of hypnosis, and that's a large part of that definition. Bypass of the critical factor with appropriate selective focus of attention. And that's what I do. And there's a lot of ways to do it. Whether it's having somebody act as if something they know isn't true is, whether it's having somebody all of a sudden have their reality shifted in a big way.
Now, how do you do that?
It could be something as easy as just going, sleep! You're good. I like you. And for sometimes that works great. There was a fella, he passed away a year or two ago named Gil Boyne. And Gil was like 6'6", and he was just this big, massive, big guy. And he would be able to hypnotize somebody like that almost in the way that a faith healer can, by slapping somebody on the forehead and saying, "You are healed." Now, I'm not saying that that's not the power of God. I don't get anybody getting upset with me. However, you can go through those same motions and make those same noises with the intent of hypnotizing somebody. And if you've got somebody who already has the expectation that they're going to be hypnotized when that happens, that'll hypnotize them.
So, and what happened to Gil?
Gil was just this great big guy who was very imposing, and so when he went up to somebody and smacked his head on their forehead and said, "And sleep," you would. And the fact that he was also pushing you down towards the ground didn't hurt.
So that's not hypnosis, though.
It is by the time you hit the floor.
Why?
Bypass of the critical factor happens a lot of different ways. And it can be something as involved as a formal hypnotic induction. It can be something real simple. I was moving into my house a few years ago, and my dog was there in the house, and I didn't want him getting into my stuff. So I was sort of staging out of one room, and I would close the door of the room behind me. And I was going back and forth, opening doors, closing doors, opening doors, closing doors. And something happened, I don't know what happened. I went to open this door, and all of a sudden, it opened about this far, and then just stopped. We have this sort of standard idea of doors. We don't have to consider a door every time we walk up to it. Door, doorknob, hinges, door opens that way. We don't have to figure out doors every single time. We generalize doors. And that's just one example out of many. If that generalization all of a sudden quits working, there is this little moment inside of our mind where it's like the flywheel is missing a few teeth, and all of a sudden there's things spinning loose. In that time, you are hypnotized just for a little bit, just for a brief moment. And a couple of things can happen there if you've got somebody there who knows what they're doing. They can expand upon that, add additional suggestions that cause that moment to expand and get greater and greater and greater. That's what happens when the hand goes to the forehead when you say sleep, because all of a sudden something weird just happened. You don't really expect that to happen in a normal situation. And there's this little thing that happens inside the mind. And if you then just keep expanding upon that, keep throwing suggestions, talking, more and more comfortable, more and more relaxed, even more relaxed than you were just a moment ago. Talking, floating, drifting, dreaming, and just keep going deeper and deeper down. That's right. And if the person has the expectation of being hypnotized, they will be. I know guys who walk up to people on the street and do it. It's their idea of fun. I don't do that.
So at this point, you're saying, knowing what we know and knowing where we've been in this show, this particular show, there would be no way to hypnotize him.
Oh, no, not at all. I could go through a complete formal induction. It would take several minutes. If you'd like, we can do that.
Okay. Well, we have the time. Go ahead.
Okay, fantastic. Tell you what, Sean. I need just a little bit of room here to work. Why don't you go ahead and slide over a little bit more behind the desk? That'd be great. All right. Go ahead and just aim back the direction you were. I sort of need to be at 90 degrees to you. This will work better. There you go. All right. Most importantly, Sean, do you want to be hypnotized?
Sure.
Okay, let's try that.
Wait. I want to lose weight.
Fantastic. For our purposes here today, would you be happy with just being hypnotized for a little bit and then being brought back out of hypnosis with the complete understanding that I'm not going to make you do anything weird, I'm not going to make you do anything funky. My reputation's on the line here, and I don't do that.
Okay.
So you okay with that?
Sure.
Fantastic. Let's try that again. Do you want to be hypnotized, Sean?
Sure.
Close enough to yes. Okay. Here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to just stare straight ahead, wherever is straight ahead for you, and I'd like you to pick out one single spot. Doesn't matter where it is or what it is. In fact, it might even be that place where the wall meets the ceiling. That's sometimes a really good place to stare. Just pick out one single spot, and what I want you to do right now is focus all of your attention on that one single spot. It can be like you're imagining what it would be like if you had eyeball ray beams and you're able to think a hole right through there. Just focus all your attention, or maybe what it would be like to sense every single thing about that spot right from where you're seated in this chair. It doesn't really matter. Just go ahead and do that right now. And as you're focusing all your attention on that spot, just go ahead and take a nice big deep breath in. Hold it for a mental count of 3. Let it out with a big sigh. Let your eyes close all the way down. I just want you to imagine that nice, easy, comfortable feeling just working its way all the way through your body. It's okay. The funnier it is, the more relaxed you can get. Smiling is relaxing all the way down through the soles of your feet, all the way up to the top of your head. Just allow yourself to imagine a drop of water on a leaf. You ever seen a drop of water on a leaf? It's just sort of sitting there. There's nothing holding it there. It's just relaxed and comfortable. I know. And the funnier it is, the more relaxed you can feel. You know how relaxed you feel after you've seen a funny movie and you've just been laughing all the time, and you get out and it's almost like you've run 5 miles. You're just so relaxed. Your muscles have let go of all those chemicals that you've stored up, and you can just feel really comfortable, really relaxed. And what I'd like you to do is to just imagine that all that feeling of relaxation is now focused on those tiny muscles there around your eyes. Muscles that are so small that most of the time most people never ever notice them. And all you need to do right now, in fact I bet you're doing it right now, is just noticing how quickly those tiny little muscles can become completely loose, limp, and relaxed. Just like a wet washcloth. So completely loose, limp, and relaxed that pretty soon you know you can't open them, no matter how hard you try. Unless you were to take some of that relaxation away, and you're not going to do that. It's just like how you know that you can make a muscle so tense, you can't make it any more tense. You can squeeze a fist so tight, you can't squeeze it any tighter. And because you know that's true, you know the opposite's true. You know that you can make a muscle so completely relaxed, you can't make it any more relaxed. And that's all you're doing it right now. Just letting those tiny little muscles there around your eyes become completely loose, limp, and relaxed, just like a wet washcloth. So completely loose, limp, and relaxed that you know you can't open them, no matter how hard you try. And when you know that those muscles are completely loose, limp, and relaxed, just like a wet washcloth, so completely loose, limp, and relaxed that you know you can't open them, no matter how hard you try, prove to yourself that you cannot open them by giving them a quick little test. Stop testing, that's great, you're doing perfectly. More and more comfortable, more and more relaxed. Now, leaving your eyes closed, go ahead and just let that feeling of relaxation just float on up to the very top of your head. Because what's going to happen in a moment, not just now, but in a moment, is that I will ask you to really open and close your eyes. And when you do close your eyes, you can just let that feeling of relaxation just rush down through your body from the top of your head all the way down through the soles of your feet. And as you do close your eyes, you can just let yourself go twice as deep as you are right now. Would you go ahead and open your eyes, close your eyes twice as deep. That's right. Doing perfect. More and more comfortable, more and more relaxed. And in a moment, not just now, but in a moment, I'll ask you to really open and close your eyes. This time when you close your eyes, that feeling of relaxation will just drift down around you, just like you're getting all bundled up in the most wonderful blanket of relaxation as you're going 10 times deeper. As you open your eyes, close your eyes, 10 times deeper. That's right. You're doing perfectly. More and more comfortable, more and more relaxed. The funnier it is, the deeper you go. The deeper you go, the funnier it is. Next thing you know, you'll just find yourself feeling yourself being that much more comfortable, that much more relaxed. That's right. You're doing perfectly. And in a moment, not just now, but in a moment, I'll ask you to really open and close your eyes. And this time when you close your eyes, that feeling of relaxation will just fill you and surround you with the most perfect feeling of relaxation you have ever experienced as you are going as deep as you can possibly go today. As you open your eyes, close your eyes all the way down. That's right. You're doing perfectly. More and more comfortable, more and more relaxed. Now, if you've been doing what I told you the way I've been telling you to do it, what I'm going to do here, Sean, in a moment, not right now, but in a moment, is that I am going to very lightly grasp your right hand by the right wrist there, and I'm going to pick it up and I'm just going to move it around just a little bit, just a couple of inches around, just to show that you are not helping me or hindering me in any way at all. Your arm's just going to hang there, loose, limp, and relaxed, just like those eyelids were. Completely loose, limp, and relaxed, not helping me or hindering me in any way at all, because you have been following my directions the way that I've been telling you to. I'm going to do this right now. That's right. That's perfect. That's right. No, no, I know how to hold your arm. You can let that go. You can let that go. You can let that go right now. Let it go. Let it go. Let it go. Let it. I know how to hold your arm. I can do this. I've done this for a long time. And you can trust me because it's just your arm hanging there right off my fingers. That's right. And at the count of 3, I'm going to drop it. And you can just let yourself go all the way down. 1, 2, 3. There you go. You're doing great. Now. That's right. It's funny. I know. It's funny. You're doing a great job. The funnier it is, the more relaxing it can feel. That's all right, buddy. We're not going to put you on the spot anymore.
That's difficult.
It can be.
I was quiet as a mouse that time, though.
You were.
I did not do anything.
You were. Some folks, you know, it's crapshoot. And I do spend a lot of time on the phone with somebody before I'll take them as a client. I spend close to an hour sitting there just talking with them, listening to them.
So I'm not good at candy. I just can't.
You're not comfortable with me yet. I would want to hear you talk for about half an hour. I want to know what you're into. I want to know what you like. And I want you to feel comfortable telling me that stuff. When you're comfortable telling me that stuff, you're going to feel comfortable following the directions that I give you. When that happens, you're going to be okay. It just seemed a little weird. I mean, here's this guy sitting here telling you that your eyelids are going to be loose, limp, and relaxed. You know perfectly well that you could open your eyes. There's nothing wrong with them. And of course, you're right. You could. You can act as if you couldn't. And when you do, act as if something isn't true that you know is, or the other way around. That little thing happens inside your mind, that little which gives me that opportunity to go ahead and start adding more suggestions and more suggestions and more suggestions. Had we proceeded further and we could have, it wasn't going to happen, and that's okay. There would have been a moment, and I won't spoil it for you, but there would have been a moment where something could have happened, because at some point, maybe, if we do this again, you're going to find yourself noticing that it does work really easily when you just go ahead and allow yourself to be comfortable with somebody. I mean, this is, again, not the most ideal situation, and that's okay.
What was making you laugh?
I don't know. I just.
Laughing is usually a sign of nervousness.
Okay.
And it's okay if you think that hypnosis is weird and freaky. You are in vast and good company if you think that hypnosis is weird and freaky. A lot of people think that. I was working with a PR guy a couple years ago, and he presented me with an ad that he'd written, and it was sort of a myth-busting idea. It was, you might think that hypnosis is like this. It's really like this. And I'm reading this. I said, people think this about hypnosis? People think that we're in dark rooms with cauldrons and black robes and incense, and that's only every other Tuesday. But this guy, he was an older gentleman, and educated, former print journalist. And I realized that, yeah, people do think that. Hypnosis is not the norm for a lot of people. Now, I say that here. I have colleagues literally all over the planet. And I was talking to a woman who is in the San Francisco Bay Area, who's a hypnotherapist. And I mentioned to her that I do these suggestibility exercises, like the thing with the heavy hand and the light hand. And she said, wow, why do you do that? That's so old school. There's no reason to do that. And I said, well, there's no reason to do that for me. But there's a reason to do that for the client, because a lot of times my clients have never been hypnotized before. And she said, wow, really? Yeah, why? Well, I don't think I've ever had a client who's never been hypnotized before. So it is, situational. It is cultural. You know, San Francisco Bay Area, apparently hypnosis is, you know, kind of like going to get your car washed. Around here, not so much. I'm trying to change that, but right now, not so much.
Well, Sean, you can go back over to your seat if
Thank
you
you,
like
Sean.
now. Thank you so
Sorry.
much.
Hey, no reason to apologize.
I
You
would
did
love to
good.
be. I love to be hypnotized sometime or not.
Okay, we'll talk later.
Okay. Thanks.
Cool. Thank you.
Now, Jeff, the question I would have would, being that didn't work for Sean, would say weight or smoking work for him?
That would have been the very first step in either of those. So, if that happened in my office, and one time in 100 it will. For somebody like Sean, I'd give him a couple options. It's like, okay, today's not your day. Here, today, with me. A couple of choices. One, I'll give you a referral to somebody else who I think is good. There's a couple of people in Columbus who I think are excellent, and I'm perfectly comfortable referring people to them. Another option is that they can, you know, maybe there's something going on that I don't know about in their life right now. That's okay, that happens. You know, you schedule an appointment and sometime in the intervening 2 weeks, something happens and your mind's on that rather than sitting in the chair talking to me. That's okay, you can come back in a couple of weeks, we'll reschedule, no charge. Or, I keep a selection of self-hypnosis discs in my office. You know, we can reschedule and you can listen to this. Again, no charge. Get yourself used to hearing my voice, hearing the type of suggestions that I give. Sit there, relax, put some headphones on in your own environment, someplace where you know you're comfortable, you know you're safe. And sort of build up that expectation that when you hear my voice and you are hearing those suggestions, that you will feel comfortable and relaxed. And then come back, we'll do it again.
What are your feelings on religion, as it were?
Well, I am one of those people that I actually sort of despise the term. I'm spiritual, but I'm not religious. I was raised in a religious household. My father is a minister. When I was younger, we went to church every Sunday. These days, I don't, but that's my choice. If somebody else wants to go to church, that's their choice. And as long as they're not saying that their religion says that I'm some sort of a demon summoning necromancer, I've actually had colleagues have that happen, then I'm okay. And I hope they're okay with me.
I think here's why people would say that with hypnosis, and I think that this is probably pretty close to the problem, that when somebody, if they saw a video like this, because this was not pre-planned in any way, what just happened
Sure.
here, and somebody couldn't be put under, somebody couldn't be given that extra step, that they would say that somebody who accepts money for this is a scam artist, for lack of a better term, shyster,
Sure.
charlatan, because why couldn't somebody else do that? If you can't see any type of progress, isn't that preying on people's weakness?
Well, I'd say two things about that. The first thing I'd say is that this was one person in a less than ideal situation. The other thing I'd say is I don't charge until I'm done, because sometimes that happens. I don't charge if that happens.
But isn't that all just mind over matter, though? I mean,
Again, we're getting back to what's your point. Mind over matter is hypnosis.
because anybody could do it.
How?
Well, I think in the end, if you find somebody who is highly suggestive, and it is the ideal circumstance,
Oh, sure.
That
And if
you
you can
could-
find someone that's part of that 2% of the population, more luck to you. I love having those people in my office.
well, how many people are hypnotized? How many, what's the percentage by a trained hypnosis?
People who come into my office, again, 99% of the people who come into my office are hypnotized. They're
99%.
Yeah,
Okay. By their own admission or by your admission?
by theirs.
By theirs. And by what admission are they hypnotized? I say, how do they know if they've been hypnotized?
Everybody has a different sort of hypnosis experience. There is no universal hypnosis experience. Most people, not everybody, most people, have an experience of sort of a daydreamy kind of feel, maybe that feeling that you have just as you're drifting off to sleep. That's what most people experience. There is, like we're talking about, that 2% of the population who are what we refer to as natural somnambulists, people who are very highly suggestible. These are the folks who definitely shouldn't be watching late night TV. They shouldn't be watching the infomercials. They probably have a whole guest bedroom full of exercise equipment that they never use because, ooh, that looks cool when they see it on TV. People who make infomercials are excellent hypnotists. And those people, more often than not, will have a much more profound hypnosis experience. They might not even remember what happened at the end.
Isn't that, though, not a hypnotist? Isn't that a salesman? You're selling the idea that you can beat this. You can beat whatever your problem is. Because as my understanding, pretty much now, hypnosis is used to lose weight, quit smoking, that sort of thing. It's not so much used anymore. It's not a parlor trick. It's not to make you stand up and wag your arm and do that sort of thing.
There's people who do that. I mean, there's people who make their living doing that. There are stage hypnotists who either work in a local area. I know a guy down in Gatlinburg. He's got a regular gig at one of the theaters down there. There are people who travel the country. There's a fellow who plays a comedy club down in Columbus, and he's on that company's sort of circuit. He hits all the ones around the country, and he plays each one twice a year. And yeah, that's hypnosis.
But isn't that David Copperfield?
No, that's magic. That's different.
What's the difference?
The difference is that magic uses tricks and props. Magic is convincing you that convincing everybody in the room that something has happened. Hypnosis is changing your beliefs, whether it's for a moment when you're up on stage convincing somebody that they're on a bus with bad shocks on a bumpy road and so they bounce up and down in their chair, or whether it's helping somebody have their subconscious mind believe the same thing as their conscious mind, that they do no longer smoke, that they do eat smaller meals and they feel full faster.
To me, though, that sounds like slightly different definitions, but same outcome. That if a magician gets on stage, and whether it was a plant or it's an illusion or whatever it was, 99% of the people in that room who didn't know what the act was believe they saw what they saw, even though it's magic. In hypnotism, 99% of the people might agree that, yes, I felt hypnotized, but it was just because they felt hypnotized. What else would you base that on, I guess?
The real proof is in the results. When David Copperfield makes the Statue of Liberty disappear, next day the Statue of Liberty is right where it always was. When somebody comes to my office to quit smoking, the next day they don't smoke anymore.
99%.
99% of the people are hypnotized. I offer a free 30-day guarantee, if you will, on the Stop Smoking program that I offer. If within 30 days of your initial session you even feel yourself backsliding, come on in, you get a free session. Over the past, and I don't keep a lot of records on this, over the past, say, 2 years, I've had maybe 7 people take me up on that, out of several hundred.
For example, and this is just all I'm saying, because I think I'm trying to help people understand this and get to the bottom. If a person came in a white coat to, somebody said they're going to see a doctor. A person comes in a white coat with a placebo, a pill with no medication in it whatsoever, and says to the person, you have a cold. This will get rid of that cold. It's a magic drug. It's new, hasn't been approved by the FDA. Take this for a week and you'll get over that cold. I bet 99% of the people would probably say they felt better the next day. And now, do some feel better the next day? Probably. But is that because the cold has took its course, or is that because mind over matter, because they believe that there was really something in that pill? What is that? When you take money from somebody to fix a problem, I'm glad that the problem gets fixed, but what's the explanation?
Well, what you just described was actually done in a university study about 8 years ago, and you're absolutely right. If a doctor says to somebody, I know what your problem is and I know this will solve it, most people do experience relief of symptoms, assuming it's not a broken leg or something. If that same person goes to somebody with the same problem and says, I have no idea what your problem is, but take this, this might help, the number of those people who say that they got helped is way lower. You're absolutely right. There is this thing called white coat syndrome. And just about anybody who's ever been to the doctor knows about it. You've got this list of things that you want to talk to the doctor about, and the doctor comes walking in, and it's like your mind goes blank. I will do what you say because you are the medical person in the white coat. That's why you should write stuff down when you go to the doctor. But ultimately, it's the result. If the person gets the result that they wanted because they came to me, is part of that because of the fact that I'm an official hypnosis person with official hypnosis certificates on the wall? Probably. Is most of that because of that? No, of course not. Because I know what to do and I know what to say to help people get the results that they want. Does it always work? No. The medicine your doctor gives you doesn't always work. But it works when it's the right thing for the right person at the right time, which is most of the time.
But isn't that in some way false hope for people?
If it works most of the time for most people, no, that's actual hope.
But
it's actual
but aren't
results.
the people who benefit from it predators?
No.
Why not?
Because I'm providing a service that people want that actually gets them what they want. If you
So
go
are
to a
drug
car repair
dealers.
shop,
But so are drug dealers. They're providing a service that people want, and they get the benefit of what they want. What I'm saying is that hypnosis, if it is just based upon mind over matter, what is an official hypnotist? What is mind over? What is all that? What's the difference?
well, I think it would probably help if you had a definition of mind over matter. You don't seem to.
Well, I do. Making somebody believe something that isn't necessarily happening.
Okay, that's completely different from hypnosis. They're
What's the
actually
definition
getting
of-
the result that they want. Mind over matter. You're using your mind to solve a problem. That's hypnosis.
Okay, so that is hypnosis.
Yeah.
So anybody could technically do it.
If they knew how, sure. If you can cause mind over matter at will, which most people walking around the street can't do, because mind over matter, and again, you haven't given any sort of official context of it, is sort of a random occurrence.
I think the placebo was a context of it, because I say the person with the white coat is not a doctor, but the person doesn't know that.
Yeah. The placebo effect, quote unquote, mind over matter, yeah, that is a function of hypnosis. But it is, again, contextual. You're providing a context, guy in a white coat, you are providing a specific...
So it's all about
setting.
Context.
Context is a big part of it, yeah.
But so why is that any different from somebody who's... Because here's the issue with hypnosis. It's considered something. Hypnosis, a field, a certificate, a person who can do it is a hypnotist. How is that different from anybody else? If I am somebody who walks in and, for instance, that person in the white coat and gives the placebo, that doesn't make me a doctor. I can't go and perform heart surgery. But the person who walks in and
You
gives...
can't even hand out placebos legally.
Well, but this person, I can do it though. But the person, and make it work, the person who comes in who's a doctor who actually is in a white coat who's been to school probably can do bypass surgery. I can't, because I have no idea what to bypass. That's when I say predator, what I'm talking about. Because you're right, I am illegally giving them a placebo, but I can physically do it. I can hand them the placebo, I can say, this is going to cure you, this will be great, take this, it'll be fine, you'll feel better. And we've agreed that, a good portion of those people would feel better the next day. Now, is that it taking its course, or is that they just want to believe that, whatever, it's happened. What I'm saying is, but I can't do bypass surgery. And I'm saying to these people who are coming to you who maybe have terrible illness, you can't guarantee a cure. You can only guarantee that mind over matter thought.
Okay, you're assuming something that is completely false.
What's that?
That people come to me with horrible illnesses and that I offer to cure anything. I never offer to cure anything at all. If somebody has been seen by a doctor or a mental health professional, they must have a referral from that person before I will even have a long phone call with them.
But don't you believe that people want to lose weight so they don't get horrible diseases? And certainly people want to stop smoking because they possibly have already developed emphysema, which is not always terminal, or they're starting to see problems. Why else would they want to stop?
Because it costs too much, because of social ostracization, because they hate the smell, because their kids are on their back.
But why are all those things happening? Eventually the end result is going to be something bad.
They gotta wanna.
They do have...
Needing to and wanting to, two very, very different things. I've had people calling me up and say, hey, I've got lung cancer, I've got emphysema, and my question to them is always the same thing. Why do you want to quit? And if they say, well, I don't want to, then I say, well, then I've got some really bad news for you because I can't help you.
And I think that's the point. I think that's the point of the conversation that we're having, is if they don't want to do it, it can't be done.
Oh, absolutely. And I make darn sure they want to.
Right.
Because I don't want to waste their time. Like I mentioned before, I'm booked out several weeks in advance, and I don't charge if their person's not being hypnotized. So I try to avoid that situation as much as possible. I will talk to them for a long time on the phone, and I'll try to find out, why are you doing this? Why is this important to you? Because it needs to be important.
Well, my only, and this, we're about to run out of time here, but what I'm saying is because I've seen these smoking seminars, for example.
Oh, yeah, those.
Well, where people go in,
yeah.
and you have 20 people there, and some of them do walk out and smoke, and some of them swear that they've been hypnotized, and that's why they don't smoke anymore. Now, my belief is because that person who walked in there, long before they were ever hypnotized, as they were, believed that they wanted to stop smoking. It's just a want to stop. It's just a placebo that helps them along. It makes them believe that something pushed them.
And for some of those people, you are absolutely correct. For some others, they were hypnotized. Hypnotizing a group is a crapshoot. You sort of got to aim for this statistical middle that doesn't really exist. You're going to have lots of outliers on the other side. And the other thing about these groups is that, and you don't really see them too much anymore, that's because of some weird legal stuff that happened in Indiana. They're what, 40, 50, 60 bucks? And considering what cigarettes cost these days, shooting 50 bucks into space for the possibility that the hypnotist is going to wave his magic hypno wand and turn your problem into his problem and then make it disappear, yeah, that'd be worth 50 bucks to take a flyer on that. These people are not particularly motivated. They know they should quit. They may even kind of want to quit if they don't have to lift the finger to make it happen. And 60 bucks, yeah, sure, what the heck. For the vast majority of people, the success rate on those things is only like 30%. And a lot of those people who do those are doing them to get a lot of people in the room, because a lot of times it's more than 20 people. It might be more like 200. It's to sell the stuff in the back. The tapes and the CDs and the supplements and the books and whatever the heck else they've got. It's why I don't do those. I mean, I'll do them if somebody hires me to come in, but I don't set the thing up and I advertise it and way too much hassle because I'm here. I'm here the next day. Most of these guys who do the traveling hypnosis roadshow thing, they used to be from Indiana because they changed the laws there about who could and couldn't do hypnosis in Indiana, so they had to go elsewhere. Now they're from Texas for the same reason. They're someplace else, some other town, some other state the next day. Sure, they've got a guarantee. The guarantee is that if you didn't quit smoking, you get a little card, you get to come in for free the next time they're in town, provided you know when that is, and it costs them nothing to add another chair to the back of the room to have 201 people there rather than 200.
Final question. If somebody comes to you and says, I want to quit smoking, I want to lose weight, but in their mind they still want to eat the cupcake, they still want to smoke, is there any possible way you could stop them? No.
Not with hypnosis, no.
Not with hypnosis. So it has to be voluntary to some degree.
Yeah. Now the weight thing, there's some fudge factor on there. Yeah, you can have a cupcake occasionally. You can still be a slim person and have your occasional cupcake. You just can't have a whole pan of cupcakes. And that's where I come from when I'm working on the weight thing.
Jeff, I got to say, it's been interesting. It's been an absolutely interesting conversation. The guest today has been Jeff Richards, hypnotist, on the subject of hypnosis. Catch you next time.